nobody around me was talking about therapy. I would
Ooh,
tell all of
Wow.
my friends I'm depressed. Not one friend said, "Hey, maybe you should try therapy." And this is
Wow.
that's the problem in our community. We don't even know what to
wow.
say to people.
Welcome back to the Express Yourself Black Man podcast. My name is Kizzle or Kofi, and I'm a mental health advocate, public speaker, and founder of a Kizzle brand, which is a project aimed at raising awareness for depression and helping people through difficult times. Studies show that on average, men lose 2.8 years of their life when they're under heavy stress. The point of this podcast is for me to gain those 2.8 years back. As a black man, society often tries to tell me what I can, can't do, or talk about, which can often leave me feeling trapped. And so this podcast is my release.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Takeover with your girl Shay McCray here on Fubu Radio. And of course, you know we are inside the room with State Representative Brandon McGee. But Brandon has a special guest. And as we reflect back from last week, just touching on mental health, here we are bringing awareness to men with mental health issues and just trying to bring some light to it and just be able to be comfortable to talk about it. So, B, I'm gonna
Yeah.
let you do this. Go ahead and
Yeah.
bring your friend out. You know what I'm saying?
I
Since
got you.
guys
And
stick
you
together, you know what I'm saying?
listen, as I said in our earlier opening, that hat is fire. I like
You
that
know, I
hat.
tried to bring
Appreciate it.
some light to this. You know,
Yeah,
this is
and it's red. I see you. I see you.
well, I
But-
didn't tell you prior the story. I'll let Kizu hear this. The story is from our late brother, our late brother who passed away just shy of 4 months ago. He made this hat. So I
Yeah.
just, when I miss him, I just embrace things that, you know, I have that's personal to me from him. So that's why I
That's
have
what's
this hat
up.
on.
But I think so we do have an amazing guest inside the room today on the takeover. And as Shay already said, and Shay, you hit the nail right on the head. We've been on this series of talking about the importance of our mental health, specifically Black men. And, you know, I mentioned a few shows ago that there is something about Black men and having this sort of fear of therapy or, you know, just help. And I happen to be on social media, and one of my fraternity brothers shared this post that was by this guy. I didn't know who he was at the time, but it just read, "Express yourself, Black man." And I found myself every single day reposting any of the content that I came in contact with, but it became personal to me. And it was one quote in particular, and he's actually wearing the hat today that said, "It is okay to not be okay." And that resonated. It resonated a lot. And as you mentioned with, you know, our mutual brother, Tylon, there were days when I would just act like things were okay, but in essence, it was not. And I had to really tell myself that it's okay to not be okay. And so that being said, we have on the show today, Mr. Kizzle. He'll give you the backdrop of his entire story, but Kizzle has a very unique story. He has a unique business that he's managing right now in addition to a full-time job. And he also just recently wrote a book. But before we jump into all of that, Kizzle, welcome to Inside the Room on the Takeover. What's going on?
I'm good. I'm happy to
What's
be
up?
here.
What's up?
Just jump right on in. Talk to us.
Yeah,
Tell us really quickly
yeah,
about
come
your story.
on.
Absolutely. So do we have a few minutes? Because it's gonna take
We got a few
little.
minutes. You got
Okay.
wow, baby. Do your thing. Let's
All
do
right,
this. You know
We
what I'm
absolutely.
saying?
we know how to ask questions and slow you up or speed
Okay.
you
Yeah,
up.
we
So
know
we
how
got
to.
you.
Yeah, you got
I
you.
love
Go
it.
ahead.
I love it. So yeah, so thank you for the introduction. My name is Kizzle. And honestly, the reason why I got it started with Express Yourself Black Man, it starts about 4 years ago with me battling my own mental health issues. So in 2017, I had just got out of a relationship, and I was in a relationship from the ages of 14 to 19 at that point. So from high school going into college, which I was in at 2017, I was in a relationship. And in college, the relationship really started to fail. And I was wondering as to why the relationship was failing. And it was really based around my insecurities, but at the time I didn't know that. And so we end up breaking up in 2017, and I end up falling into this big, like deep depression. And I'm having a hard time just understanding who I am at the moment. And so it's really hard for me to like just be myself because I didn't know who I was. Like I said, I was in a relationship from 14 to 19, and I spent a lot of my time just engulfed and just trying to figure out how to make her happy, trying to compromise and do those things to make sure the relationship would work. So that mantra that, you know, we live by sometimes, happy wife, happy life, right? Which kind of destroys us of actually being able to prioritize our own selves as men.
That's a show in and of itself. I don't
Right.
believe in that.
Wow.
Right,
But
right,
anyway,
right.
keep going. Yep.
Right.
Carry
And
on.
so that's kind of the mantra that we all kind of grow up on, which is like, you know, happy wife, happy life. It doesn't really matter what you're dealing with, as long as your woman is good or your partner is good, you should be fine. Right. Like you deal with yourself second. And so that's kind of what I lived under in that relationship, on top of me having my own insecurities as a man and stuff. And so when the relationship ended up failing, I ended up having this deep question of who am I? Right. Like, and I just couldn't answer it. Like I had a very hard time answering it. And so that led to like this spiral of depression because I was really searching for myself while also trying to fill the void of not knowing what it felt like to be single and not getting some kind of love and attention from another human being. Right. And so 2017, I'm really doing a lot of self-reflection. I'm understanding, like, it took me being months of being like depressed for me to actually understand that I was depressed, right? Because at first I was sad and frustrated and not understanding that that was actually that was actually me being depressed in the moment. Like I didn't know that I was actually depressed. So I'm sad and frustrated for months, and just I would go to school and I would be fine, and I would come back home and I would just be upset and sad. And what they call that is functional depression. And this is not like a scientific term, but it's actually something that is widely accepted as a thing. It's called functional depression, which basically means that you can function, you know, in society normally, and everybody would think you're fine, but in private, you're actually suffering. And so that was me. And like I
Well,
had
Kizzle,
basically,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
go
actually
ahead.
cut
Yeah.
you off right there before we
Please,
move any
please, please,
further.
please. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
know a lot of times it seems simple, like, oh, I didn't realize I was functioning. I was just depressed. Could you help give us some of the signs that helped you identify that it went from just being functional or just being sad or upset to really you were actually depressed?
Right. So for me, right, and it's different for everybody, right? So I actually put up a post the other day about like, here are 10 signs that you may be depressed, right? So for me, my signs were having energy to take care of other people, but not having energy to take care of myself, right? So when it came to me and like what I needed to do, like that was always like, man, no, I'm good, right? But anybody else, I'd be like, all right, cool. I can kind of find the energy to do that. Some other people really don't have energy to do anything.
They can't
Like,
even take care of themselves. You're
right,
absolutely right.
right.
Good
They
point.
can't
I
even take
love
care
it.
of
Okay.
themselves. But that's not functional depression though, because that would just be depression. Functional depression means that you can kind of operate still, right?
Just
So
put
I
that
think
mask over that cover
right, you
up.
put the
That
mask, exactly, right? You put the mask over it, and you can go out into society and operate as normal. But when you come back home, you're dealing with all the stuff that you didn't want to deal with, right? All the stuff that you tried to mask. Now you have to take the mask off because it's only you and whoever else is in your house. And for me, when I was coming back home, to take it back to my story, I was living in an apartment by myself. So I go to school, I come back home, and I'm just like, dang, man, like I'm with my thoughts. I'm just always constantly thinking about the mistakes I made. This is another a sign. Just continuously replaying situations over and over and over, knowing that there's nothing that you can actually do about them, but you continuously replay them over and over and over. The best way that I can give you, like the best kind of example I can give you is like, you ever have an argument with somebody or something happens and you're like, you think about it after it happens and you're like, dang, I should have said that. Right? Like
that would have been a good one.
Yeah, that would have been, man, I would have got them, man.
I would have got them.
Right? Like, I'm so mad I ain't say that, man. That's literally what it was for me. But it was for situations that happened like 6 months ago, 8 months ago, even up to like a year ago. Right. And I'm just replaying it over and over and over and over again. There's nothing that you can do. Right. There's nothing that you can do about that. So like literally like me having energy to help other people, but not being able to help myself, not wanting to be at home because I didn't want to have to continuously relive things that I had experienced in the past. Always feeling like I always reliving things basically was another sign for me. And then also losing interest in things that I found interesting before. Like watching TV, or like sometimes talking to friends, or like maybe fantasy or basketball. Like these are things that I would, normally be interested in. But at the time, I was just like, man, I don't want to do any of this, man. Like, I really don't want to, I'm not interested in any of this, because I just lost, like, for me, like, I lost sight of like who I was and what made me me. And everything just kind of like around that time just felt like, what's the point? Like, what's the point
So,
of doing this?
so
Yeah.
at what age did you actually turn the corner and
Mhm.
kind of, said, all right, I need to figure out something here,
Right.
come to term with myself. The
Mhm.
relationship is now over.
Mhm.
How did you get to this whole express yourself? And I don't want to go
Right.
too fast, but
No,
when
no,
did you
yeah.
make that? When did you make that turn?
You're on the right track right here. Yeah. So for me, it was still 2017, but what ended up happening was I hit basically like my rock bottom in that year. And rock bottom for me was suicidal ideations. Like literally, suicidal ideations is like thinking about suicide. So I didn't actually go out and decide that I wanted to engage in suicide, but I did remember saying to my friend, like, yo, I don't want to be here anymore. Like the way that I always put it is, if God came down and said to me, hey, you got two decisions. You can either stay, live the rest of your life, or you can go right now if you feel
You
like you're
out.
done.
Yeah.
I would have been like, yo, G,
I'm
what's
out.
up? We out.
Yeah,
We are
yeah.
out
Got you.
right now. Let's go. Like, let's go right now. That's how I felt, right?
Wow.
Literally. And so once I realized that, I was like, yo, it's not normal to feel this way, because that felt so normal to me that I honestly forgot that I hadn't felt like that before in my life, because that's how engulfed I was in it. So I literally honestly forgot that I had another whole phase or years of my life where I never felt like not wanting to be on earth. I remember sitting in it sometimes, like sitting in the depression sometimes, and wondering like what it felt like to not be depressed, honestly. And so this is some of the things that people struggle with. And so for me, like once I hit that rock bottom, I was like, okay, I need to do something, because this is not like what's going on right now is not working. So it took a lot of like willpower and strength for me to kind of like start figuring out ways in which I could feel better. And some of those ways were really just coping mechanisms at the time, because I didn't know how to really properly heal. And at the time I wasn't going to therapy, and therapy wasn't an option. It didn't even seem like an option for me. And this is the reason why I stress therapy so much with Express Yourself Black Man, right? So at that time, what I decided to do was take up a skill, take up learning something new. And I just stumbled across that because I was like, you know what? I'm doing so much self-reflection. I don't know who I am. I might as well just try and learn new things and engulf myself in something else so that I don't feel engulfed in this. Right. And that's a coping mechanism, because what I really did was take my mind off of it. But I didn't really heal.
Then
Right.
heal. Yes.
I didn't really heal. I just took my mind off of what was going on.
And it doesn't make it
right?
no better. Yeah.
It doesn't, it made it better for me to be able to deal with the day-to-day stressors and struggles and stuff. And I wasn't depressed, but at the same time, I wasn't dealing with the root, the underlying issue of what caused the depression. And for me, it was insecurities and me seeking validation and love from women. Like that's literally what it was. But I didn't take the time to do that work in 2017. So what ended up happening was I finally get to the point where I feel better about myself, because I'm investing so much time and learning new skills. I'm building confidence in myself because I'm learning things. I'm learning new things. Like I'm learning graphic design. I'm learning Photoshop. I'm learning all these different things, web design. And so I decided at that time, like, you know what? I'm gonna start a project called a Kizzle brand, right? And a Kizzle brand was a project aimed at raising awareness for depression and helping people through difficult times. And so I started a Kizzle brand in 2017 after I started feeling better about everything. And I just came out and told people like, yo, I was depressed. This is what it felt like for me. And we need to talk about this more in our community, because there's no reason as to why I feel like I couldn't even say anything to people. Like some of my close friends knew, but even then, like it wasn't as helpful as it was for me in 2021. Like fast forward into 2021, 2020, going to therapy and actually talking to a therapist.
I was going to ask, did you go to
Mhm.
therapy at that point?
Nah,
Did you?
no, no, I didn't. Right. And so even me coming out in 2017 saying, yo, depression is a big thing in our community, we should talk about it more, I still hadn't gone to therapy. Right.
But why though?
Because there was multiple reasons, right? Why I didn't know how to start. First of all, I didn't know what to do. Right. Like what do I need to do to find a therapist? I had no idea. right? Like, so for me, it was just this big like block. And then also on top of that, nobody around me was talking about therapy. I would tell all of my friends I'm depressed. Not one friend said, hey, maybe you should try therapy. And this is that's the problem in our community. We don't even know what to say to people, right? I mean, at least at that time. I think now we're a lot better. But at that time, we didn't even know, like my friends didn't even know what to tell me. They're trying to help me, like as if I'm dealing with some kind of like sadness, but really it's deep-rooted depression. Friends are not well equipped to help other friends with depression and suicidal ideations. As much as we would like to, right? As much as we would like to, we are not as equipped as we should be to help, right? As a therapist is to help. And so the answer that I always tell people, even when people DM me, I will listen for a little bit. And if the issue seems very deep rooted and they have like a long story behind it and all these different things, there's only so much I can do for you through a DM. That's the whole reason why I wrote the book, right? Because
let me don't jump into the book yet, because we're gonna go on the second half and talk about the book. But I want to know, so what's interesting, and you can fill us in, you're not a licensed therapist at the moment. You are en route, in pursuit of becoming. So like, why so much? Is it because of your story and you now understand the importance of sharing information? Like what are you doing now? What you say?
I think everybody want to talk to their friends, so they probably seeing that he's opening up and they befriending him in their head. You know, we always got that friend in our head, so they're like, "I'm gonna open up to him." You know,
no, I'm asking more or less like you're really committed to this to the point where you're not licensed, but you are qualified based on your own experience.
Yeah. Right.
Like, what's keeping you locked into this, wanting to pursue a career? Was it just your lived experience? Or is it your lived experience plus what you now know as you pursue your credentials and, you know, becoming this licensed therapist?
It's a mixture of both, man. Like when I think about it,
it
makes me emotional because it's like I still know what it feels like. I can still connect with those feelings from 2017, right? So I still feel that part of me. Like that part of me is never like really gone. It's just kind of subsided and taken. Like I understand like what was going on in that period, but I know. Like when I have the conversation with you guys and we talk about the story and all that, like I tell you exactly how I felt in that moment because I feel that, right? And so for me, that is one of the big reasons as to why I do it, right? Because I'm like, yo, I know what it feels like. And if someone feels anything like what I felt in 2017, I want to make sure that I can do, you know what I'm saying? I want to make sure that I can do whatever I can possibly do without, you know, harming myself or, you know, damaging myself to help that person. And that's the reason as to why I get on IG and I post 3 times a day, because it's like, yo, I want to make sure I catch you in the morning, afternoon, or evening. You're not going to say you missed the post. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to say you missed the post. That's the reason why I stay consistent, because it's like, yo, I want to make sure I catch that person, right? Like, I want to make sure I catch you because like you're not going to say you didn't see it. Right. That's what we're not going to say. We're not going to say that you didn't see it. I want to make sure that I catch you in some way, shape, or form with something. So like for me, it's a mixture of both. And then also like I get DMs from people that are like, yo, bro, I'm going through this. I'm going through that. I'm going through this breakup. Or my wife cheated on me. Or like I'm depressed right now because like I had sexual assault when I was younger and I never got to talk about it. Like I had suicidal idea, like all these different things, these deep rooted things. And so for me, it's a mixture of both because I know our community needs it. Right. Like
but Shay, he is in my mind, and I hate to make this correlation between the two persons, but he is the true essence of a Kevin Samuel, but a better one. So and here's what I'm saying. If you ever watched any of his lives and he brings females into a conversation, it's not to humiliate them. It is to better understand from a female's perspective on a particular issue, or, you know, to gain insight or to share information. Kevin Samuels,
I don't know, B. We're gonna take a quick break when we come back. I beg to differ, but when we come back, we're gonna get more into Kizzle and then we're gonna go into the book.
Why would you beg to differ?
I don't see him bringing anyone down to bring him up. I think he's sticking
Oh,
right
no,
there.
no, no, no.
And he's
You're missing what I'm saying. I think Kevin Samuels is trying to get to where Kizzle is. Kevin Samuel is the only reason why he is where he is because of his negativity and his own little demons. He actually needs to come sit down and talk to you.
I was about to say, I think he needs help. I think he's hiding and masking the depression,
the hurt,
and
the depression.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, the whole like if you talk to
let's take this break.
Let's take this break. Yeah. When we come back, we have more. I'm hearing more from Mr. Kizzle. All right, keep it locked. It's the takeover. Welcome back to the takeover with your girl Shay McCray. And of course, we are inside the room with State Representative Brandon McGee. And if you guys just now tuning in, we are sitting here with the founder of Express Yourself Black Man, Express Yourself Kizzle. Mr. Kizzle is here doing his thing and teaching
Kizzle
us.
Dizzle.
No, that's my word. See, you cheat. You can't do that. I have to say that. I made that up. We got to keep that on record that I made that up. You see how we do that?
You did.
But no, first of all, I want to say I thank you for just joining us and sharing your experience and even speaking about it, because once again, Black men especially, they hold back on expressing where they are mentally, where they are right now mentally, and if they actually really healed and what we can do about it and sharing that help. So thank you so much for sharing this. Trust me, this moment will not go unrecognized because it is hard to get up here and you're doing it so freely and like it's so easy, you know?
Yeah. So Kizzle, from hurting to healing, a Black man's guide to filling.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that piece and what made you want to memorialize, put this in a book and actually share. I've been reading it. It's for me, it's heavy because I like to go back and reread again and reread and allow for it to resonate. Talk to us a little bit about that book, that piece, and how people can get a copy of it. It's an ebook. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. And so from Her and the Healing of Black Man's Guide to Feeling, it's my first ebook. It has 4 different chapters, 1 chapter on breakups, second chapter on depression and suicidal ideations, 3rd chapter on anxiety, 4th chapter on attachment styles. Each chapter is separated by 2 sections. So the first section is my story, which is basically me talking about how I dealt with either breakups or depression, suicidal ideations, anxiety, or attachment styles, whatever the chapter's title is about. It's my story talking about how I dealt with that. And then the second part of the chapter is how to heal. So it's literally steps that I took, research that I found, resources that I found, tools and techniques that I learned from therapy, all combined into a comprehensive guide for how to heal, dealing with whatever the chapter is talking about. So breakups, literally I have a guide, things that I went through and things that I've done when dealing with breakups in order for me to move on healthily. Because a lot of times we talk about moving on and people aren't moving on healthily. They're doing things that they shouldn't be doing, or they're engaging in toxic behavior and stuff. And so the whole point of me writing the book was I started to see a trend when I had the community. People would DM me and they'll say, yo, bro, can you make a post about breakups? I'm like, all right, cool. I'll make a post about it. Then 3 months later, I'll get another DM. And I'm like, all right, cool. Swipe through the post and you will find that post. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't make sense for me to always have to repost it or like continuously send people to the same.
And they were like long posts too.
Right. And these are posts is like it's a carousel post. So it's a slide post. So it's like 10 sections and you're going through and you're swiping through and trying to find the information. So for me, it just made sense to put it all in a book because I know these are areas in which we all struggle with, especially Black men. We struggle with these areas a lot. And a lot of times we just don't know exactly what we should be doing to deal with these things or heal from these things. And so I felt like, okay, I've dealt with all of these things personally, and I have the community, and I know it's a demand that we have, especially from our Black men. So I was like, all right, let's make a book about it. Let me talk about my story so people feel comfortable and know that it's okay for them to be dealing with these things. It's okay for them not to be okay, right? And so that's what the My Story section is about. And then the How to Heal section is, okay, if you're dealing with this and you're trying to find a way out, or you're looking for other resources or tools or techniques, this is what worked for me, right? And so that's really what it is. And so it's really just a tool for Black men to have in order for them to find some kind of healing when they're dealing with these things. And the main reason as to why I wrote it is because I was getting those requests from Black men. And I also wrote it for myself because in 2017, boy, I would have wished I wish I had this book, man. That's really what I wish, honestly. So
So
yeah, I just wanted to finish. So the last part of it is people can get it on shop.expressyourselfblackman.com, or you can go into my Instagram, click the link in my bio, and then click Her in the Healing ebook, and I'll take you right there.
I was gonna ask you this. I know you focus a lot on relationship and obviously the 4 sections of your ebook,
Mm-hmm.
but given the year that we had in 2020, when you begin talking about like all the protests and the killings of Black men, I read this quote a few shows ago, and I want to read it again. And then
Mm-hmm.
the question I have for you, and I'll repeat it, but the question I have for you is, given the racism that continues to just blanket our community and those who, I guess, receive the brunt of it mostly are Black men.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had anybody to reach out to you on dealing with sort of the anxiety, the stress, the stressors of just being a Black man, and how Black men are to be other Black men brothers keepers? But let me just read this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's by poet Prentice Powell, and he says, being a Black man in America means being my brother's keeper. Being a Black man in America means being my brother's keeper while keeping a distance from my brother because I don't trust him further than I can see him. It's believing the cops don't care about you. It's learning how not to doubt yourself because when you're born, everyone else already does. All right. And again, just in context, he wrote this following the fatal shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson. And you made a post a few weeks back, and it basically talked about how to coexist and how to support your other brother in their
Mm-hmm.
space. And I'm paraphrasing.
Mm-hmm.
But help me to understand, have you had any men to reach out to you and be like, yo, do you have any tips or guides on how to manage through such high anxiety times in our world today because of the race relations that we're all faced with? And if not, that's fine, because you're very focused on what you do. But I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, absolutely. I think it's a great question. I think it's something that comes up a lot, especially with the fact that I think in our community, there's a heightened anxiety level, but it's become normalized. So it's not seen as heightened. But I understand that I have heightened anxiety just because of the fact that I've been to therapy, and I know it's not normal for me to feel like if I go outside, that there's a potential that I can die, like when I leave the house. But this is the reality that we all live in, not even just Black men, Black women live in it too, and just in different ways.
That's
but
right.
As a Black man, we live in this reality where we feel like everything is a threat. And so that puts us at a heightened level of anxiety, but it's become normalized because this is just our experience. And so literally the anxiety chapter, it doesn't speak specifically to that, but it does talk about social anxiety, which is what I have as a result of being robbed multiple times. And then also just, having the anxiety that comes from race and all that kind of stuff in the United States. And so some of the
you're
things,
in New York, right?
yeah, and I'm in New York, right? And so you're not dealing with the best people in the world, right?
Yeah.
Like, right? And so
Shay's a New Yorker too, by the way.
Yeah,
so you understand. I don't even
he was like robbed a
it.
couple times. Like, I remember I was robbed at 4 years old. Like, I get it.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah. And so for me, what came after that was like me just feeling uncomfortable with like leaving the house, right? And I know that uncomfortability never went anywhere. I just learned how to cope with it. Right. Like literally the first day after I got robbed, I didn't want to step. I couldn't, like, not even didn't. I couldn't step foot outside of my house. I remember opening my door, wanting to leave. And my body literally was like shutting down. Like, nah, bro, what are you doing? Are you crazy? You just got robbed yesterday. Right. And so this is some of the stuff that we as Black men live with. And this is why I push therapy so much, because we are dealing with a heightened level of anxiety, not even just because of the race problem in the United States, but also what's going on inside of our communities. We have brothers that are being killed. We got sisters that are being killed, family members that are dying. And so when you see all of these things, it starts to traumatize you. This is all trauma that we're not unraveling and dealing with. But back to the root of your question is some of the things that I do personally that helps me with my anxiety is meditating. Honestly, when I wake up in the morning, 10 minutes, I just do belly breathing and meditation. And belly breathing is literally just breathing in, allowing that to go full into your diaphragm, and like expanding your belly, and then breathing out, and then doing that for 10 minutes and just focusing on my breathing. Another thing that I talk about is also guided imagery meditation. And this is all in the book, right? It's guided imagery meditation.
Well, don't give them too much because
I know I don't want to give
mine.
Yeah, let them know where they could get the book at
I'm
again.
Shop.
Put that plug in.
Blackman.com. Go get the book. This last thing I'm gonna say is guided imagery. That has also helped me a lot. But we also have to get to the point where we stop looking at each other as threats, man. Like we look at each other as threats. And so that puts us at, even when we're at this heightened level of anxiety, it makes it so much worse, which is why we see so much of the killings in our community and so much of the gang violence and so much of that dude that lives down the block from me is an op. Like, how is somebody that lives down the block
I remember
from you,
that.
right? Like, how is someone that lives in your neighborhood an op? How, just because you know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't make sense, but this is the culture that we live in.
That's
now,
where
where
we
it's
live.
like, we're always against each other, and we don't know how to create like one community that benefits from each other. If you don't have something, then I have it, and that we coexist that way, right? And so I don't know. We live in a heightened state of anxiety, and it's also hard for us to acknowledge that because we're not doing enough self check-ins, and we're not going into therapy, and we don't have the tools and techniques that we should have in our community.
Well, I totally agree with you. And one of the things I always get is that I'm always on a defense mood or state. But I noticed when I went to your page, you relay a different message and you break it down for us. And if you guys do not know his Instagram, please go follow him. Express Yourself Black Man. Amazing content, and it's stuff that you can actually read between lines because you break it down for us the elementary way. And one of the things that stood out to me was one of the posts you posted shy of 6 days ago, and it talked about many of us are forced to survive because we've been in survival mode most of our life. And I tell people all the time, I'm not in defense, I'm in the survival mode. You know, it's not like that was my whole life. Coming from the streets of Brooklyn, New York, you're forced to survive, you know. And I love how you broke it down with the plants and the thorns and how the thorns are on the plant, and
I can explain.
And then you talked about how, well, my mom already do this, so why are you in defense mode? But it's something we can't take down or break down when it's already planted there.
Right.
You know, so I wanted to bring light to that, to the content that you post, because once again, you guys, amazing content, good thing. Sometimes we could get the good therapy and the things that we read. You know, I read a lot. That's how I get my good stuff. I read positive and great affirmations all the time to help me move on. I write down my affirmations on things that I want and things to be better to help me move past some of the things like anxiety. Even as getting on a plane can be so much for me sometimes at times, or just not knowing what the next level are in your life. So now you are here. First of all, when do you graduate? When you finish? When can you say you're officially a counselor that can license?
I gotta officially apply first. So I'm doing that. I gotta apply to school first. So I'm trying to get in next semester. So I'll probably be sometime in 2022. I'm trying to start.
Okay.
But hopefully it'll be like a year and a half from then. So I'm hoping by 2024, the latest.
So what's your official title? You are a motivational speaker, personal development,
mental health advocate, personal development, self-development, whatever you want. Like, I'm just a brother trying to help, man. That's really
so with that leads me to my next question. You talked about you put on the mask by helping so many people in the midst of your depression state, right? But all I hear now that you still continue to help others and stuff. What is it that you're doing for Kizzle? What do you do now?
That's a beautiful question. So if we're gonna rewind back to the story, 2017, I get depressed. I didn't really deal with what was going on at that time. I started Kizzle brand. Fast forward to 2020. Pandemic happens. I'm in another relationship because remember I got depressed because I was in a previous relationship that failed. I get into another relationship, and that relationship for me, I stayed in way too long just because I was seeking that external validation and love still because I never really healed. I ended up getting cheated on. I found out and we broke up. And so then I got to the point where I was like, yo, all women are evil because there's no way that I got cheated on, right? And so that was the thought process that I was having at the time. Like, all women are evil. And I knew
maybe I shouldn't have wore this red hat. You probably see just none but thorns. Like, no. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, you're good. Right. So I get to this point where I'm like learning all of these negative behaviors, right? And I'm starting to absorb the kind of like Kevin Samuels, like kind of content, right? And so I decided like, yo, this ain't me, man. Get yourself into therapy. Luckily, one of my friends had just started therapy, so she knew the process. Right. And we were kind of talking back and forth about it, especially since I had started a Kizzle brand. And so I get into therapy. My therapist is a Black woman. The first thing she starts telling me is like, how are you going to get into another relationship if you think all women are evil? And so that kind of destroyed that thought right then and there. Right. And then I started dealing with all the other trauma, me not feeling like I got enough affection, my attachment style, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm still in therapy to answer your question. What am I doing for myself? I'm still in therapy. The whole reason why I started Express Yourself Black Man is because once I started going to therapy, I started realizing all these things, all these tools and techniques that I was learning. I was like, why don't we talk about this? Like, yo, this is dope. And so I started going on my personal IG and telling people. And then one of my bros was like, yo, bro, start a podcast. And that's how Express Yourself Black Man started, was just a podcast. And then I was like, you know what? Let me add that to the IG. And then the IG kind of took off. So yeah.
So let's stay right there with the whole, you know, your evil thoughts about some of these horrible female,
some of those horrible females,
just horrible. So a few days ago, you hosted a live reconciling between men and women. Fill us in just real quickly, like what did you get from that conversation? Because I think you also invited a really cute female to come on and y'all were talking.
She invited me, but no.
Okay.
Get it right.
My bad. B Kizzle was wrong.
No.
So like, tell me what that was like. Like, where did y'all land? Really quickly, Cliff Notes.
We landed on the fact that we need to talk to the opposite sex more. You guys are doing it.
Yeah.
Literally, what you guys are doing is what we should be doing. A lot of times, what happens is we mingle in the same crowds too much. And so we have the same kind of mindset and thought process. Who is Kevin Samuels talking to? A bunch of men. Who are those men talking to? A bunch of men. So now your perspective is skewed. It technically is skewed because all you're getting is insight from men. How can you have a holistic view on the world when all you talk to are men? And that's the reason. Right. And that's the reason why I talk to women so much. Like, it's Express Yourself Black Man, but like, some of the last 4 podcast episodes have been with women.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you had another one, you know, Black Man, hold the men in your life accountable for their healing. And you had CC on. I don't know who she is, but I'm looking. She looks like Cardi B. She's really cute. Like, what was that conversation like as well? I'm sorry, I'm just skimming through, but it's all kind of relevant to the conversation.
And so for me, what it is like, I started realizing I didn't know enough about women and their experiences and stuff. And so for me, like me talking to women started way before I started the page. But it wasn't me talking to women to try and get anything from them. It was just me talking to women because I'm like, yo, I need to understand what do you think about what do you think about this? Because my bros are telling me this, but I don't know. And so once I started getting it from the source, like woman, I was like, wait, my bros is wrong. Like, they tripping. So that's when I realized, like, okay, we don't have enough information about each other, right? Like, we don't understand each other. There's a communication issue. So Cece and I were talking about how it's important for us to all take accountability for our healing. That person hurt you in the 8th grade, and now you feel like you can't talk to anybody from the opposite sex, or that they're only bad people in the opposite sex. That is a problem. You need to take accountability to heal. Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what happens is people say, well, why do I need to be accountable to heal for something that somebody did to me? And it's like, okay, I understand. You were hurt. You were traumatized. I get it. Right. But at the same time, if you don't take accountability to heal, you are literally stunting your relationships in the future, because you have a skewed perspective on the opposite sex. Because
that's why I don't group people. I don't group men. I don't group women. I don't group age groups. I don't group color. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know they're, you know, obviously in the state of the world.
I group color. I group color.
You know, I mean, you gotta think about it. I came from a biracial, you know, family, you know, so it's hard. It's hard. That's true.
And I group biracial people,
you know.
Oh my God.
Please, Kizu, let us know one last time how we can follow your journey, how we could keep up with the
Get
podcast,
that book.
get that
Yes.
book,
Mhm.
and so many other things. Give me your Instagram.
Absolutely. So on Instagram is Express Yourself Black Man, exactly how it sounds. Excuse me, exactly how it sounds. On a podcast, it's Express Yourself Black Man. You literally type that into any podcast streaming platform and you will find it. We're also on YouTube, Express Yourself Black Man. We have the last 5 podcast episodes on YouTube. I'm planning to take the YouTube to another step. So I'm going to start making some of the content that I make on IG. I'm going to start putting that into YouTube videos. So like interactive videos talking about healing and that kind of stuff. So definitely subscribe to the YouTube.
Just one quick question. Are you trying to reach out to our younger Black men on like the TikTok platforms, etc.? Only reason I ask is I'm really concerned, and maybe this is a whole nother conversation, but I'm just concerned a lot of our younger Black men, they're literally living on these smartphones, and there is a disconnect with their mental health, their reality, social cues. Like everybody's living to be a Lil Nas X or, any of these famous celebrities.
By the way, I was gonna say you kind of look like him, but I hope not to offend you. But you do. No, I don't know if you get it a lot.
I don't mind. No, I don't get it a lot.
Ain't nothing wrong with Lil Nas X. Listen,
that brother. Yeah,
he's a handsome dude.
I don't think so either.
He just causes a lot of. He's a troller. He loves it.
He's a troll.
That's his business.
He's like 6'9", right? Remember how he get Tekashi, like how he came out,
Oh yeah. I was like, he's 6'9". I thought he was short, but no, I know what you're talking about.
You're so silly, but no. Also, I want to ask just briefly, do you ever get tired of talking about mental health or awareness?
Nah, I don't. I'm passionate about it. Like it would be different. It would be different if it was like my job. My job I get tired of. Mental health.
And that's what I was trying to pull out earlier. The fact that you're not even like, not to discredit. It is your job. It's your calling, but you haven't gone to like some school to be certified to hold online therapy sessions. You're saying, look, I'm giving you what was given to me and it's helped me. Here you go. At some point, I'll professionalize this, but this is my passion. And you're literally helping people. Like,
Absolutely.
So that's what's
up. That's more reason to tap into him. You know what I'm saying? Because he's here to help you, not hurt you, So
we just make sure y'all buy his book so he can do more content and all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
Express your man. Express your man. Black man, express yourself, right?
Express yourself, Black man.
Express yourself, Black man.
Shop.expressyourselfblackman.com. Got merch as well on there.
I know that's right. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys keep it locked. Don't go nowhere. It's the takeover.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for taking the time out to listen to this episode. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you. So I really hope you got some valuable insight. And I hope I helped in some capacity, whether it be through the platform or the podcast. If you like to support for free, you can like this video if you're on YouTube, or you can share and subscribe regardless of what platform you're listening to the episode on. If you like to support monetarily, now we're talking, you can go to shop.expressyourselfblackman.com and get yourself some merch. We have a hoodie, we have sweatsuits, we have shirts, we have hats. We also have an ebook on how to heal, where I discuss breakups, depression and suicidal ideations, anxiety, and attachment styles. I go in depth about my story with dealing with all of those things, and then I explain how to heal in an easy guide. It's easy to follow. It's easy to go from reading to implementing. So if you're interested in that as well, it's in the shop. The book is called From Hurting to Healing, A Black Man's Guide to Feeling. So consider supporting monetarily, but regardless of how you support, I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day. Sometimes I know you feel like you ain't got nobody to speak to. A shoulder to lean on, somebody you could preach to. No, you need to hear it, my brother, I love you. We got way too much to live for. We got way too much to live for. When we get it all, we want more. Looks like you lost another one. When we get it, still we want more. I know it's hard, but you just gotta push on. Tell me for only brody, always trying to bring you. If you ever feeling down, bro, you never alone. If you ever feeling down, you can always hit my phone. If you ever feeling down, bro, you never alone. Okay, hey, I'm your shoulder to lean on. Express yourself, distress yourself. I don't wanna talk about me, tell me how you feeling well. Since you know that you alive, but this earth feeling you.